The modal verb do or does reveals the information about the subject because the definition of the verb emphasized by the modal verb do or does deals with the present when the conversation with the speaker actualizes. The speaker can state the clause without the intent of the emphasis. That can be the reason why we study the modal verb do or does in the fourth sort of an adverb. The speaker can emphasize the intent to clarify that the experience, condition, or action stated in the clause is important. In this intent of the speaker, according to this emphasizing intent of the speaker can apply the modal verb do or does with the emphasizing intonation, like you do deserve the love of Jesus Christ. The modal verb do reveals that the number of the subject is plural. The subject is the participant in the conversation as the speaker, or the subjects are the participant. This is about the classification of the subject by the two standards. The first standard is about the number of the subject, about whether the number of the subject is one or not, because rather than classifying the subject into a singular subject or a plural subject, revealing the number one and the other numbers can be helpful for us to consider that the number 0 is also classified as a plural number. The second standard to classify a subject is about whether the subject participates in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners or not. So there can be 4 possibilities according to the two standards. The third case, that the number of the subject is 1 and the subject does not participate in the conversation with the speaker, is appropriate with the application of the modal verb does. The first, second, and fourth classification of the subject is appropriate to understand the application of the modal verb do. The first classification of the subject is about the speaker, whose number is 1 and participates in the conversation. The second classification of the subject is about the listeners and the subject, including the speaker. The listeners are indicated by the personal pronoun you, and the subject, including the speaker, is indicated by the personal pronoun we. The subject, the number of the subject is not one, and the subject participates in the conversation with the speaker. The fourth classification of the subject is about the subject indicated by the personal pronoun they. The number of the subject is not one, and the subject the subject do not participate in the conversation with the speaker. The first, second, and fourth classification. The subject classified as in the first, second, and fourth classification is described. The modal verb do is appropriate with the subject or subjects in the first, second, and fourth classification. And the modal verb does, the application of the modal verb does is appropriate for the third classification of the subject, indicated by the personal pronoun he, she, or it. The modal verb does reveals that the number of the subject is singular and the subject is not a participant in the conversation with the speaker. There is a clause, you do study hard. The modal verb do describes the intransitive verb study to emphasize the action that the listener says the subject actualizes at the present when the conversation with the speaker actualizes. The form of the modal verb do reveals the information about the subject whose number is more than 2 and who participate in the conversation with the speaker. We expand the range of the listener to every listener on earth because we are all linked by the one spiritually. So we can understand that the number of the listeners is always considered as plural. The modal verb do signifies the information about the fact that the number of the subject is plural and the subjects are the participants in the conversation with the speaker. There is the second clause, he does study hard. The form of the modal verb does reveals the information about the subject whose number is 1 and who does not participate in the conversation among the speaker and the listeners. As the modal verb reveals the information about the subject as the third role of the verb and the tense of the clause as the second role of the verb. the form of the intransitive verb study stays in its original form. The modal verb does describes the intransitive verb study to emphasize the action that the subject, who is a male and a non-participant in the conversation with the speaker, actualizes.